How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. The draft is less than a week away. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. So let's dive into my final rankings for this class, my 2025 Big Board 2.0. Let's dive right in. Cooper Flagg sits in a tier alone, and of course the tiering system is very important. Just spoiled Dylan Harper in his own tier right there. But being in your own tier just means there's nobody really that comparable in terms of value, and players within the same tier are generally fluid for me in terms of their rankings. So even if players are ranked fairly far apart, they can be more similar than they'd seem. But Flagg, and I'm limiting myself to 3 clips per prospect as a challenge because I love putting way too many clips in all my videos, and I don't want to be for hours. But this is the Cooper Flagg clip to me of the cycle for whatever reason that sticks out in my head. This twisting baseline pass covered by 2 people. He's no-looking this way, and then he kicks it, twists and kicks it to the wing for a wide-open 3. His playmaking, ridiculous. He's going to be an awesome pull-up shot maker. The stuff he hit off the dribble this year was absolutely crazy. And Flagg is one of the best, if not the best, defensive players in the entire draft. We'll get into that. But look how quickly Flagg is able to explode and recover after, ball watching a little bit. And we already saw Dylan Harper alone in his tier 2, where I think a lot of people are kind of sold on other guys in that tier or lower than Harper. I'm really high on Harper and don't think anyone else matches his level as a legitimate primary initiator bet. He's so good at manipulating defenses as a playmaker, can pump fake, put guys on his back and jail, and obviously his incredible slashing and finishing helps his passing. And the swing skill for Harper, if he can be a very legit pull-up shooter, he wasn't an efficient mid-range guy, but I trusted enough. And yeah, if he can really threaten defense as like a quick trigger pull-up shooter, because all of it is built on stopping the driving. Oh my goodness, the way that he destroyed teams as a driver this year. He has the best handle in the class to me. Harper just crossing over, splitting the tight pick and roll, rising to finish. And if you're enjoying this and if you're excited for the rest of the board, drop a like, comment, subscribe. Would all be super, super helpful. And come join my live show during the draft. It's going to be awesome. But our tier 3, this is where my board separates from consensus. I have Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears, and Con Knipple. These to me are the high ceiling bets that aren't as rock solid as these two. At least Queen and Fears mostly, but Con is kind of in here for his safety as well. But I want to get into Queen really quick. Just spoiled my 4th tier there. Oops, didn't mean to do that, but that's all right. Derek Queen is, besides the big 2, the best advantage creator in this class to me. The way that he can win off of the dribble at his size, his handling, his change of speed, his change of direction, quickness, strength, touch are all phenomenal. This is a great consummate Queen possession here. He guards the play. He pushes in transition. You can just see how functional and tight his handle is. He gives it away, and then he's going to show off his awesome playmaking here, processing the floor on the move, hitting his teammate for an easy layup. And even though a lot of people have defensive questions with Queen, they're rightful. I think his quick hips, feet, and hands definitely give him potential, where look at Queen just flipping his hips, hanging with Ace Bailey here. I really believe in the defensive ceiling, even if the floor is low. But he's so good on offense, it doesn't really matter to me. And I feel that same way about my 4th ranked prospect, Jeremiah Fears. So I recently did a big breakdown of his burst and advantage creation are crazy. He can get into the paint whenever he wants with his great burst and handle and change of speed and direction. And Fears blends that handling with developing passing skill. Doesn't have the craziest vision in the world or anything, but when he can crack defenses like this and get to the basket, I do really think there's primary initiator upside, even if it's at his tail end. And regardless, I believe in the jumper. The flashes were pretty awesome of off dribble shooting. His indicators are great. I'm definitely a believer in Fears there. And at number 5, we have Con Knipple, who, his athletic tools and finishing might not give him the same kind of creator upside, but he is, to me, the most underrated and maybe the best or a top 3 passer in the class. His vision on the move is crazy. He doesn't pass off drives as much as pick and rolls, but he can find defenders, while he's moving towards the basket. And the pull-up 3 is going to be a big swing skill for him. He didn't shoot off the dribble nearly as much or as well as off the catch this year, but these basic pull-up 3s, if he's making these shots, it's kind of over for him because defenses will have to play him really tight. And I think Con's explosiveness and horizontal athleticism are kind of underrated, but He definitely struggles to get up and finish over athletic defenders like JoJo Tugler, but he has a little bit of leverage ability, and he can get by guys and finish. And that plus, his incredible feel for defense, I think he can get by enough in his weak areas just to be an incredibly good player from right away on and off ball, but I think has a real ceiling because of the shooting and the playmaking. But let's get into tier 4, and this is my group of like lottery-ish level prospects. All these guys I think are generally lottery level players in any given draft or most draft, and not every draft has 14 of them, but this draft has more than them to me. As we talked about, everyone in this tier kind of interchangeable, whether they're here because of their safety or because of, they still have a high ceiling but are more volatile. And Trey Johnson comes in at 6. I almost put Trey into that third tier because of how ridiculous his shooting is. He's the best shooter in the draft, and his ability to hit step backs and pull-ups off the dribble, off movement. My favorite thing about Trey is how that interacts with his super underrated passing. Trey is a great on-ball pick-and-roll passer, but I think there's a ton of potential, too, for him as an off-ball passer. 2 defenders go to him because he's a huge threat to shoot threes, just leaves a bunch of space over top, and Trey has the vision and processing on the move to make these kind of plays. The driving and the rim finishing are going to be the big swing skills for Trey, and why I'm ultimately a smidge lower than consensus, but I still really like Johnson, where beautiful spin move, tight handle, but just really struggles to get up. You can see how little lift he has on some of these plays, and he tested like a good athlete, so maybe he's a better athlete than I'm giving him credit for, but that lands Trey at number 6 for me. Then we have Maluash at 7, who I've lowered a little bit on since I did the video on him where I had him in the top 3. I'm a little more worried about him actually attaining his ceiling, how realistic it is, but you see possessions like this where he's just moving all around the floor. His ability as a roamer and as a big defender to cover ground in big areas of the court as an 18-year-old 7'1", 7'2" guy, absolutely crazy. As you can see him just making an impact the entire possession, deterring shots, and his ability to deter shots at the rim, even though he's not the greatest shot blocker like numbers-wise, is really impressive. He isn't able to stay in front of RJ Davis here, but the help helps him out, and then he forces a miss. So he alters one shot, he deters another shot, he deters another shot, he forces a kick out, and then he's going to, defend the post, deter another shot, forces a kick out, drive into the paint, and he's going to block that shot. So that's like 5-6 impact plays at the rim in one possession, and Maluash is an incredible lob finisher too with phenomenal touch. He shot nearly 85% at the rim in the half court this year. That's incredible. So Maluash, high defensive potential, rim running big. And at number 8, we have Colin Murray-Boyles, who I think is the other guy along with Flagg, who has a legitimate argument as the best defensive player in the draft. I might do a video on him before the draft, squeeze one in. This is one of my favorite clips for the whole cycle. Look at Murray-Boyles I just wanted to let it play. You've got to watch this like 4 times to realize what happened. He steals this ball while it's in the offensive players. What? This is blasphemous. This is wizardry. And, those instincts, length, the strength, the versatility make him a legitimately elite, versatile perimeter interior defensive prospect, even as a smaller player. And the ceiling stuff for Murray-Boyles to me is if he can really expand as a driver. I wish he was a little bit more explosive, but you can see his handle, his touch, his patience with the pump fakes, and Murray-Boyles is a phenomenal passer too. One of the best in the draft, in my opinion, where this is one of my favorite plays he made all year as well. He has some of the best clips of the year. Just, oh my goodness. Yeah, the processing speed, again, falling out of bounds. He knows where this ball's going before he gets the ball. He's falling out of bounds. The coordination to perfectly tap it with enough velocity right in the shooting pocket, that is insane. And high-end traits like that, even with Murray-Boyles' real weaknesses, are why I have him as a clear top 10 guy. And next at number 9, we have the polarizing, controversial Ace Bailey. And my favorite thing he does is his movement shooting. Very few 6'7", 6'8" guys can sprint off of movement like Ace Bailey can. And of course the question is can this intermediate creation translate to the league? I have worries about the handle and the passing, but I do believe in the defense quite a bit. Very fluid, nimble, and long. He's a good rim protector for a wing. So there's a lot of stuff he can do on defense, and he has potential to be a really disruptive on and off ball defender. And I think he's still a pretty damn good prospect for that, even if not like the star that, maybe some people conceive of him as. Number 10, I have Kasparas Yakuchonis, who's fallen a lot for some people and definitely for me because of the driving. But I do think his driving, and of course the turnovers are an issue too, but I think his driving's a tad underrated because of how bad his handle is. Like even on a play like this, you can see his handle kind of like falters right here. That dribble, right? But Kasparas has the burst to reject the screen, blow by into the paint. No looks here, just to freeze Braden Smith for a half beat so Riley can just get open enough and finish that reverse. He's a brilliant live dribble passer who isn't the best space creator by any means because of how limited the handle is, right? He has awesome touch. He was actually a great finisher and got to the rim. I think this is a great one-play summation of Yakuchonis and kind of why I'm optimistic. Like, he was such an effective player. He, shot, I think, around 30 or more % of his shots at the rim in the half court, made over 60% of them for a guard. That's amazing. But then you turn on the tape and it's like he's not creating any separation. He's relying on bullshit like that. And you can see Yakuchonis trying to go for his lethal step back to the left right here. Like, oftentimes he'll plant on that right foot and just step back a couple steps and take a three. But Yakuchonis didn't shoot particularly well percentages-wise, but I think if he can unlock that elite step-back jumper, he can be a legit, on-ball initiator who hopefully can improve his catch and shooting. Number 11, I have one that people are probably going to be surprised by. He's on the thumbnail. VJ Edgecombe. My main reasons are just worrying about his half-court offense, where even on good plays like this, you can see Edgecombe kind of like loses his handle. He has to he beats the switch right here, and he hangs in the air and finishes. He is so damn athletic, and he just floats and glides in the air. But he was a pretty poor finisher this year, efficiency-wise, especially on layups. And a lot of his best stuff, to me, is off the ball. Like, I love his shot making. He's a really impressive movement shooter. He can catch and fire from different angles. So I see Edgecombe as more of like a Gary Payton II, DeAnthony Melton, Jalen Suggs, maybe Derek Whitey. And, that's his ceiling to me, which isn't as high as some people have him. But, a good example of Edgecombe at the moment, we saw Cooper do a similar thing. So many of these gifted defensive tools guys zoning out, recovering, make a play, incredible block. And Edgecombe's ability to bring rim protection as a guard is enormous. Let's move on to the 12th ranked prospect, Nick Clifford, my guy. I just did a video on him, so I'll run through these quickly. But dribble, pass, shoot, wing, who can drive and poster people with his advantage creation, and is one of the most underrated playmakers in the class. But he's improved his shooting a bunch over his career. He's a great defender. Like, he's older. He's going to be 24. He's going to be 23. He already is 23. What a fucking pass. He's going to be 24 next February. So not that old for a senior, but he is just, to me, a plug-and-play wing who has a real ceiling because of the high-end playmaking. And then at number 13, we have Jace Richardson, another guy who's, like, curiously falling, probably because he's 6 feet tall without shoes. Counterpoint, I don't care. Watch the tape. He is a brilliant off-ball scorer where few players of his age are as decisive as he is tacking off the catch. Pump fake here, step back. He's so smooth moving in and out of space. Not like the quickest or most explosive guy in the world, but his flexibility and bend are phenomenal. And Richardson is just one of the best shot makers in the class. He's an incredible finisher. He's great from the mid-range. He's a great three-point shooter. And he's consistently hitting these tough floaters off the dribble, making really difficult shots in traffic. If there's one swing skill for Richardson, I think it's going to be his interior passing, because he is so deadly hitting shots off of these curl screens, but he's not super good at hitting these tighter ankle passes. Like, I think there's a ton of value to be added with Richardson by just improving as a passer, but this is kind of a play that shows everything for Jace, right? He's not making the high value pass, but he backs it out. He's going to end up driving, and he has enough burst to get by players, and a beautiful step back. I think Jace is just a really strong offensive bet. He has the length and standing reach to be okay enough on defense, and he's way too talented, young, and productive to be falling out of the lottery, no doubt. And then we have technically my last lottery-ranked guy, Sorber, even though I have Clayton in this tier, and I think he's functionally a lottery pick, even though I have him 15th, is Thomas Sorber, who is one of the best rim protectors in the draft. He's so good at just walling up and shutting off the basket. He's not the most mobile guy, but he's such a great rim protector as well. And his offensive toolkit is really interesting. This is more impact. I forgot the play was still going. You can see Sorber's contesting. His balance and touch in the post, like he's not a great athlete, and his scoring to me is somewhat concerning in terms of how it translates. But I love how he gets low here, almost falls over here, somehow keeps his balance, finishes with his left hand, and he's a great playmaker as well. You can even see him on a play like this, taking a big man off the dribble in an inverted pick and roll and kicking it out to the corner for an easy drive into the paint and a layup right there, or a layup attempt. So Sorber, just a really quality big man. And then we have Walter Clayton, who I legitimately think is a lottery level guy. You should watch my video on him. He is obviously a special shot maker, but I think he's a very translatable one because he doesn't need the ball to be great. He can play off ball. He can come off of gut action and pin downs and curl screens and obviously turn those into tough jumpers. But Clayton's off-ball shooting, underrated passing, burst as a driver. Oh my goodness. His ability to shake guys off the ball is sick. Like, not a lot of players have this ability, right? They play him so tight because Clayton is a shooter. He head fakes this way. This defender is going to follow, but all the space is right there, and Clayton uses his own gravity to get open. I love Walter Clayton. That's my lottery tier. As I said, all of these guys are kind of interchangeable to me. Maybe like the first 3 or 4 guys are like a half tier above the bottom of this group, but I see all of these guys as like prospects who I would take in the lottery, no doubt, for, you know, most teams. Let's get on to our tier 5, which is a little bigger. This is like the end of my first round grades tier, and I don't have clips for all these guys because I didn't want to make an hour-long video. I have clips for some of them I really wanted to talk about. Asenge, I'm a bit lower on than people, but I do love his tools and especially his on-ball defense. Same with Carter Bryant, who I have a video about. A little worried about his offense outside of shooting, but he is another awesome defender. 18, 19, 20. These are like 18, 19, 20, 21. This is like the cool wing row with also, I guess, Drake Powell, Rasheer Fleming. Will Riley, the other Illinois guy who really came into his own at the end of the season when Yakuchonis kind of wasn't playing as well. And man, he is such a fun player. Riley is very skinny, not an NBA athlete at the moment, but so skilled at 6'8", can decelerate, stop on a dime on his left foot, and hit a super tight window contested interior pass for a layup. That is so damn impressive. He's a great shot maker, and even though Riley is very lean, he's super physical, which I really appreciate. Look at a play like this where he just bumps this defender backwards and throws him, creates leverage, forces a rotation, and kicks it for a floater. Like, he's not strong at all. He needs to add a ton of weight, but I like his willingness to be physical, and just his finishing is really nice. He can shoot. He tries hard on defense, and you know, the same physical tools are problems, but what a finish on the right side of the rim. The touch is absolutely beautiful. My next funky wing is Noah Penda, who is probably behind Flagg and Murray Boyle, the third best defender in the draft. He's a special off-ball defensive prospect, and he's constantly making 3, 4, 5 little plays on any given possession that impact the game. Tell me how many you've counted so far on this one. We'll go back through and we'll watch it, but Penda is an incredible backline communicator for a 20-year-old wing playing in a professional league. He was one of the best defenders in the French league. He blows up this screen. There's one impact play. Calls for switch. There's 2, and he keeps this guy right here. Then we're going to see Penda again communicating, directing, hey, go take this middle right here. I have the backside. That's exactly what happens. What is that? 3 impact plays, and then Penda finishes it off with the block here, of course. So I think he has really special feel for the game and instinct and just recognition as a team defender. He's a great playmaker and just has a... Watch Penda's hands right here, where it seems like he's waiting for the right time. He doesn't just swipe at the ball. He's waiting for the exact time to go up and spike that. Again, gliding through screens and blocking the shot. This is so ridiculous. Like I'm saying, the multiple times of possession, he blows up this Iverson cut. Notices the help steps up, and he's like, oh, that's my man now. I'm going to switch and block that shot. His offense is a work in progress, but he's a top 20 guy just for his defense. And then Edu Thiero is one of the best, if not the best, athletes in the draft and deserves way more love as a first-round top 20 type player, even though he can't shoot and he's a mid-passer. But yeah, when you're 6'7" and have burst and explosion like this, He's an excellent defender and got a ton of blocks and steals throughout the year. But yeah, Thero is just a monstrous driving creator who I think, even though he's not a shooter, is such a good driver. His finishing is awesome. He's a great mid-range shooter, and his defense is great. So there's enough, honestly, Murray Boyles-ish, like, high-end tools. Look at him babying Grant Nelson. This is another guy who's in the draft, I think older senior, absolute baby. Get off me. He's doing this to other college guys, and sometimes can be a red flag when college players' main way of winning is just the physical dominance. But when you're as dominant as Thero, I think I'm okay with it, and I can trust it translating more to the next level. And then our last funky wing for the moment is Cedric Coward, who I was initially kind of skeptical of. Like, the competition level was really bad. His defense is shaky. But the things that kind of sold me on Coward were his flexibility and his touch, where he can move his body in some wild ways for a 6'5" guy with like a +9 wingspan. First of all, look at the shin angle right here. I talk about it on the channel all the time. Oh my God, he bends near the floor so he can stop on a dime. Hits the fadeaway. His touch on layups and mid-range jumpers is legitimately some of the best in the draft over the last couple years. And I think he can use that touch at his ceiling outcome maybe, because Coward was more of a post-up guy in college. But maybe he can use that, his length overall, and even when he doesn't finish there because he's not the greatest vertical athlete, I love the flash here, the fluid, open, wide handle. And you can see he's not like the most dynamic change of direction guy, but just being a wing of his size and speed, and obviously the competition level is low. But I do think there's a lot of room to grow right there. And then after those wings, we have a couple of international guards who I like. Traore, again, I feel like having him 22 is too low, but then I look at everyone above him and I feel good about it. I still feel like I'm higher on Traore than consensus, even though like numerically I'm not. And part of that is because of how good of a defensive season he had. Another one of those like watch all of the impact plays he makes in one possession kind of things, where he's making great rotations, flashing at the ball, defending the ball all the time. And his scoring efficiency was bad, but his usage this year was absolutely enormous, and I think he held up pretty well, all things considered. His passing was great. He still gets to the paint whenever, but yeah, let's quickly rewind this defensive possession. Starts it with the beyond half-court pressure. Of course, that's such a trend in the NBA now, and Traore did that quite a bit this season. He's putting on the ball pressure, backs off a little bit, switches that screen perfectly, denies the ball a little bit. He's really good at these long closeouts that you're going to see at the end because he's so fast, where he's quickly reading if he's like, oh shoot, I kind of overextended here. But before the ball is out of his hands, he's jetting over there, and he has the recovery speed, even when he's a beat late on those closeouts, to make the plays and recover and kind of make good on whatever the mistake he made was. And then Traore is going to deny this handoff. And then Traore, this is against Noah Penda's team, by the way. This was an awesome matchup. And even though he's not technically involved in this end of the play, you can see him drifting down to take away this pass to the cutter. So a subtle rotation that is, preventing a defensive breakdown. That's kind of the stuff that Traore does all the time on defense, despite not having great steal or block numbers. He's such a good closeout defender, like I said, with his instincts. And one more just full court pressure play, pressing the inbounder. Obviously, his team played a lot of pressure defense. Traore pressuring the ball out to half court. He really is relentless, and his motor impressed me quite a bit throughout this season. And Traore just going to close out, and he's going to end up blocking this shot at the point of attack. So he's really impressive, and I don't know clips for all these guys just because, like I said, I wanted to spare your time to some extent. But I really like Ryan Kalkbrenner and Ben Sroff, kind of high volume on ball playmaker who has a bit of scoring juice as like a pull up mid range shooter, but he's mostly just like a tall passer who can really dribble. Kalkbrenner and Behringer, two super different bigs. Kalkbrenner, like a really safe, tall, high floor big who's going to be a great two-way rim protector. And then Behringer with just like the crazy tools, but super raw and far away. That applies to Drake Powell to an extent as well, who is really toolsy, freaky athletic wing, who shot the ball pretty well this year, but the volume and the consistency isn't perfect. Rasheer Fleming, love his defense for sure. Worried a little bit about the shot. I did a video on him. A couple more guards here at the back end of my top tier. Yegor Demin, who I did a video on earlier, phenomenal passer, really worried about everything else and how he accesses that. Cam Jones, like an underrated older guard who I really think has the tools to be an NBA player. He's such an incredible finisher. His footwork is great. He can get to the paint whenever he wants. Incredible decision maker, good enough shooter. This picture has so much aura. But the last guy I have clips of for this video is Javon Small, West Virginia guard, who is getting way too little love. He's like a 3-and-D point guard, but he is a phenomenal off-ball player, and that's why I like him so much. He's being top-locked here, right? Because he's a huge threat to shoot and score. They don't want him getting this dribble handoff. Small simply shakes back door. 2 defenders converge and help. So Small is just going to hang in the air and hit his man cutting for a wide open little laydown right there. He's so good at reading the floor on the move and making these quick passes out of these cut windows. And of course he can shoot the ball off of these actions where sometimes he's trying to shake guys the other way, right? Small is able to shake this defender out of his shoes. He's going to be someone who's going to go in the 40s or 50s. I would take him in the first round pretty comfortably. I think Javon Small is an absolute stud. So this is my tier 5, my first round guys. And then we have the rest of my top 70, which I'd say really falls off after about 30, where there's some guys in this tier 6 I like. I really like Kobe Brea just because of how special of a shooter he is. I really like Jameer Watkins, older guy, but another wing who improved his creation every year and is a good 3-and-D bet. I like Max Shulga as another shooter. I like Chaz Lanier as a late shooter bet. I like Vlad Golden as an underrated kind of do-it-all center bet. But there's some players in this tier who I'm just like not as high on as consensus. McNeely for sure is one who, outside of his shooting, which I definitely buy, the defense and the driving and mostly the finishing are all quite concerning. Danny Wolf, honestly, incredible handle, really fun player, but I worry about how it translates. I don't love his advantage creation. I'm not huge on the shot, and the turnovers, especially for an older player, are quite concerning. And then Maxime Reynaud, another one who I just don't buy as anything more than kind of like a novelty and someone who can do some really interesting things as a driver and a shot maker, but whose defense and interior scoring and decision making I really worry about. But I don't want to spend too much time on these tier 6, tier 7 guys, but you know, everyone here in the tier 6, I'm like, that's worth a second round pick. Everyone a little lower it's getting dicey. Where there's some names I like. Shout out Mizzou legend Caleb Grill, incredible shooter. I really like Amari Williams, like fun dribbling, passing big for Kentucky. I'm a fan of Chase Hunter. It's just like a microwave shot making guard. Like there's some interesting names here, but nobody I'm so crazy about using a pick on. But obviously, you know, if you got a pick anyway, you're out there. But not a crazy strong second round. Of course, there's going to be some of these guys who fall to the second round. Like Kalkbrenner definitely could. Thero definitely could. Penda could. Jones Small definitely could, and Small almost certainly will. So there's going to be value up here. And like I like Broom quite a bit. Gonzalez, Markovich, an interesting stash. But yeah, it's not the deepest draft in this case. But there's the board. Let me know what you think. This is a year plus of draft work into one little PowerPoint. And I'm so excited, as always, to see how these rankings hold up. I'm going to try not to tweak these much until draft days, but knowing me, I might. But I think at least the first round on here is pretty final. So would really appreciate a like, comment, subscribe on all the videos. Just going to quickly toggle through these again so you can see them. But yeah, live draft show next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. PST, 7:30 p.m. EST. I'm confusing myself, but I'll have the details. I hope you are all having a wonderful day, and goodbye.